Hello everyone, my name is Maxwell Hall. I am a 14-year-old hobbyist animator and I own a YouTube channel where I post a lot of the animations I create. If you're watching this, you probably already know what I'm talking about. Before I start this video, I should say a few things. Before all else, thank you all so much for over 2,000 subscribers on my YouTube channel. When I first started doing YouTube, I barely thought I would hit 5 subscribers, but here I stand today with an amazing fan base of over 2,000 individuals. I couldn't express how grateful I am for how much more meaning you all have given my life. Thank you all, each and every one of you, for subscribing to my YouTube channel. I know my videos have been a bit off recently, but that's just because of the little bit of sadness I felt about myself a while ago. And more object-related animation content will be coming to you all soon. Now, let me talk for a while about something I have quite a bit of experience with: my life. Before I start though, I'd like to say, if you want to make a reaction video to this, that would be heavily appreciated. Just try not to steal my views. I was born on October 6, 2001 in the beautiful Phoenix, Arizona metro area. Let me warn you, there's not a lot that I can say about the first years of my life, especially the time around when I was born, because I don't really have any first-hand experience of it. I mean, who can remember when they were born? Well, let me keep going anyways. The doctors told my parents that I was showing an abnormally large amount of intelligence, and that has only helped the lives of my family and I since then. After choosing through quite a few names, a prime rejected example being the name Barry, my mother and father settled on the name Maxwell Carter Hall. If I'm being completely honest, I don't know why they chose the name Maxwell. I guess they thought it just suited me. However, I do have a bit of a backstory about my middle name, Carter. My mom wanted me to be named after United States President Jimmy Carter, while my dad wanted to name me after Technical Sergeant Andrew Carter from the television series Hogan's Heroes. My family was descended from Confederate Civil War General Robert E. Lee, and I've been to more than a few Lee family reunions. When I was introduced to the family, our house consisted of myself, my mother, my father, the family dog Jerry, and the family cat Jerome. Our family dog, however, didn't last for long after I was created. Near the time of my first Christmas in 2001, our family dog Jerry passed on. I don't remember too much about it, but I'm sure it was a sad event. In 2002, my mother and father were considering and speculating the possibility that I may have Asperger's syndrome, a form of high-functioning autism. My parents took me to many different therapists, psychologists, and nutritionists. Some of them said I showed no signs of Asperger's, while some of them said I did show signs. We are still getting mixed results on the subject to this day. When I was a bit more developed, about 6 or 7 months after the day of my birth, I could do a few things that are abnormal for a baby to be able to do. I was learning how to swim, I could type on a keyboard, read and understand a lot of English, and I was showing signs of being a very visual learner. I couldn't talk yet at the time though. Speaking of talking, in 2002, about 10 months after I was born, I had said my first word, cracker. Not for racial intent, of course. My life was pretty boring until the year 2004, in which my family had moved to the neighborhood I live in today, and my parents had enrolled me in a developmental preschool. From what I can gather, I would have to call the experience slightly above average. I made my first friend at that school, but we both lost touch once we both left the preschool, leaving us to go our separate ways. The assistant to my really cool teacher was, from what I could remember, absolutely terrible to deal with, punishing the students, mainly me, for no reason whatsoever. I loved all the toys they had there though. I was in that school for 2 years, since my parents made me retake preschool before going on to my kindergarten class. During the same year, our family had been informed that my grandmother on my mother's side of the family had been diagnosed with breast cancer in her eye. At the time, she lived with my great aunt in Las Vegas who worked during the day, so there would have been no one there to take care of her. My father also worked during the day, so he couldn't have flown over to take care of her either. That left my mother to fly over while my aunt was working to take care of her. I couldn't be left alone at the house because I was only 3 years old at the time, so I had to tag along with her on each flight until my aunt stopped working her day shift. In 2006, the family moved again to a house in the same neighborhood, the house we all live in to this day. My aunt had also stopped working the day shift by this time, so we didn't fly over to Las Vegas to see her anymore. A year later, in 2007, I was enrolled in the elementary school that I stayed in for the entire 6 years of elementary school. My family didn't have any need to move a lot, and the school I went to was spectacular, so I really didn't transfer schools until a while after. My kindergarten teacher was amazing, as were pretty much all of my elementary school teachers. They helped me love elementary school and become the nerd that I'm proud to be today. The next year, as I can recall, my grandmother, the same one who was diagnosed with breast cancer a few years back, moved into the family household, into the room that was mine before. I was moved into the living room, where I stayed put for years to come. By first grade during this year, I did have a few friends, but they really only treated me as a younger brother, helping me see the world in their eyes and giving me advice on how to be a successful person. I'm not saying they're any worse than a normal friend for treating me as a younger brother like that. I was actually really good friends with a lot of them and I saw them as my heroes, but I just didn't feel equal around them. Honestly, I felt like less of a person than I really was. It was really the first shred of legitimate sadness that I felt in my lifetime. During this grade, though, I had met someone who I could truly call an amazing friend, and I'm still in touch with him to this day. His name is Devin. The amazing part of our friendship was that he always treated me as an equal and I always treated him the same. It was a feeling that I had never felt before, always being surrounded with people who I thought were better than me or had legal authority over me. It was the greatest thing I had ever felt, and I wanted to spread it to more people. I started believing in my main moral, even though I didn't know it. Tolerance of others, especially towards those who need it, regardless of sexuality, age, beliefs, abnormalities, gender, sex, or any trait that they can't help. Devin, if you're watching this right now, and you know who you are too, thanks. Your offer of friendship really did mean a lot to me. I don't remember a lot happening during the next year, 2009, but I do remember that I was noticing a lot of things that I hadn't known prior. I had become more aware of my surroundings, the world around me, and how it functions. During the year, I was just starting to find my passion, my calling, my reason for living. You probably guessed correctly. I had started getting into comic books, which led me wanting to start making comic books, which led me getting into a little thing called drawing. My drawings were crude, poorly made, and blocky at the time, but I was too into it and my brain was still not developed enough to care or even know, mainly due to all the support I was getting from my family and friends. After all, nobody would want to hurt the feelings of an 8-year-old. At this time, I was still very into computers and technology, so as soon as I found an online tutorial on how to make animations with Windows Movie Maker and MS Paint, I started to do a lot of little animations and videos using MS Paint and Windows Movie Maker, as well as some stop-motion animations using Legos and modeling clay. I also found a video game that is still my favorite to this day, Blockland. We'll be getting into the reason I brought this up later. In early 2010, just as second grade was wrapping up, I thought I was mature enough to start my own YouTube channel. Of course, I was only 8 years old at the time, so I obviously wasn't mature enough, but we'll get into that later. So, on March 17, 2010, I started my first YouTube channel, Animation Artisan. Now before you go looking that up, let me get into the history of the channel. I can clearly remember that the first video posted was called UFO OMG. It was a skit I created using the game Blockland that I talked about earlier, a screen recorder, and a few randoms from the game that I found that were willing to help me out with it. Meanwhile, during a few months of posting those skits and a few MS Paint animations, me and Devin met a kid at school and his posse. I'm not gonna name names for private purposes, but we should call him Noah, the first antagonist of my life story. Of course, me and Devin didn't know Noah was bad at the time, so we gave him a chance, and he accepted it, because we wanted more friends, and we were getting lonely when it was just us. Noah had slowly started stirring up trouble in our friend group, and me and Devin started to side against him, many arguments happening between the three of us. It had gotten to the point where the school faculty didn't want us to be around each other anymore, so they moved all of us to different sides of the classroom. After about a month or two of this, Devin invited me over to his place to hang out, and Mom said I could go. While we were there, we made a video bashing Noah. I had gotten about 4 or 5 subscribers on my channel during this time, so we decided to put onto my channel Animation Artisan. After this all had happened and all the parents and victims were aware of the video's existence, my mom decided to close down my YouTube channel around the end of the school year. That had demotivated me to do a lot of drawing and animation until around July of that year, when I had found a website that seemed like it was pulled straight out of a dream at the time, Go Animate. My 8-year-old self decided to go back into the world of animation and start an account on the website, starting an animation series as the 3rd grade started. 3rd grade wasn't all too interesting, honestly. I can barely think of anything to talk about with it. Me, Devin, and Noah and his posse kept fighting. The teachers kept trying to push us apart to prevent any trouble, and I kept making terrible Go Animate videos. My ill grandma was still living with us. I still lived in the living room. Not much had changed. During the next year, 2011, I was still playing Blockland. I had met a kid on the game about 2 years younger than I was. Again, I'm not going to name names here, because I don't feel comfortable doing so, but let's just call him Liam. So Liam and I instantly struck a bond through playing Blockland and chatting on Return to Blockland, the fan-made social media interface for Blockland. After a fun summer of video creation and meeting new friends, I entered the 4th grade. Not much had changed from the 3rd grade to the 4th, until the end of the 1st semester, of course. During the beginning of the 2nd semester, I had done something considered very bad by most of the world's standards. I blackmailed Noah. I told him if he couldn't keep a certain secret about me that I actually don't remember, he would have to cough up $10. My parents were called, and as I remember it, me and Devin were sent to the principal's office. But since we were all only 10 years old at the time, the principal decided we wouldn't take it past that point, and soon enough it was all water under the bridge. At the start of the 4th quarter of the year, a new girl enrolled into the school. I won't say her name, again, but we can just call her Lexa. As soon as I looked into her eyes, I felt something that I had never felt before. But after a couple minutes of comprehension, I could safely say that I had my first crush. Even though none of us were even close to being ready to date yet, I decided to do everything in my power so she could be my girl anyways. A great friend of mine I knew since kindergarten, one that I think of my hero nowadays, decided to help me by playing matchmaker with me and her, but I didn't get a chance to ask her out before summer started, and most of us lost touch. Flash forward 1 year. On July 11, 2012, I started uploading videos to a new YouTube account, which I won't say the name of for reasons. The main focus of the channel was to do another type of content on YouTube poops, as well as animation. It went okay at best. Soon enough, Liam had gotten a webcam, a microphone, and a Skype account. I also had a Skype account, so we decided to meet on Skype and start voice and video chatting. Once I got into 5th grade, taught by a teacher who was crazy about writing, I discovered what could possibly be a new passion and maybe my true calling of mine because of her: writing. However, I hadn't exactly known this until a few years later. Talking to Liam was fun enough that we decided to do videos together. We made a short-lived Christmas special skit on my YouTube channel, Made in Blockland, as well as a few other videos. In 2013, after months and months and months of resisting temptations, I became a brony. I was obsessed with My Little Pony Friendship is Magic. During the summer between 5th grade and 6th grade, I canceled the animated series that I created in Go Animate, stopped uploading videos to my second YouTube channel, and started yet another one. When I started this channel, my life was at the best point it would be for the next 2 years. Me and Liam started doing Blockland Let's Plays on this channel in mid-2013. In the time span during the production of the first few episodes of this series, I was introduced to a couple of people who would soon be part of the center of my life, Rex the Dark Hunter and Mr. BK. Me, Liam, Rex, and BK decided to form a new friend group during that same year. Shortly after, Liam introduced me to an online animated series known as Battle for Dream Island. I decided to watch it, and was instantly hooked. I drew BFDI-based comics, and made BFDI fan characters. It became a huge part of my life. Naturally, I discovered there were a lot more shows based off this idea of anthropomorphic objects competing to win a prize, such as Inanimate Insanity 2 and Object Overload, since those were the main two object shows at the time. I decided to make an animated series, well, if you could call it that, using basic geometric shapes and the BFDI assets released by Michael and Carrie, with Liam helping me throughout the length of the series. Life was okay when I entered the 6th grade. I went to a new school, and I was no longer a big fish in a small pond. About 3 days into the school year, I met a girl in school. Let's call her Kat. I had a massive crush on her. I'll get into the importance later. For the first few weeks, I loved it. For the next few weeks, I could tolerate it. For the next few weeks after that, I thought it was okay again. In late October, there was a Halloween school dance coming up. I decided, after all this time, to muster up the confidence that I needed to tell Kat that I thought she was cute, and to ask her out to the dance. Thankfully, this went well. She said yes, on one condition. I had to keep the relationship a secret. For the most part, I fulfilled that request. However, during the week in between when I asked her out to the dance and the dance itself, a few of the other students were listening into our conversations, and they thought that we liked each other. Needless to say, they were right. Our secret spread around the 6th grade like wildfire. However, that didn't matter. She knew it wasn't my fault and forgave me for it. However, by the time of the dance, I had come out to her as clingy. And during the dance itself, while I was inside the auditorium, I spent about 45 minutes looking for her in a panic. Once I had finally found her, I chased her down for 10 minutes. I can't blame her for dumping me directly after. I'd learned a lesson there. Putting it simply, pals before gals, bros before hoes. Soon enough, middle school is getting me very down. I needed to escape while I still could, and I told my mom about everything that was happening at my school, and she suggested that I started going to online school. I did just that, and took the rest of my 6th grade courses in an online school, and I loved it, much more than normal middle school. However, once 2014 started, I realized my problems were still there. They had just moved from the real world into the online world. A lot of my friends, pretty much everyone except Liam and one of his friends, were starting to think that I was a really bad person and decided to stop contacting me from a place of peace and love, and decided to start fighting with me, coming from a place of anger and hatred. I was starting to become legitimately depressed for the first time in my entire life, because I only knew a couple of people who liked me for who I was at the time, while my former friends were having a blast in their own company and making memories that I had no part in. It really was making me sad and not helping my life at all. My 13th birthday on October 6, 2014 was the worst day of my life, for reasons that I really do not want to talk about. But the events that occurred on that day scarred me inside, and I couldn't do anything except for sit in the middle of the living room for a while. Thankfully, I was on fall break from online school. Luckily, that was rock bottom for me, and now there was no other way to go but up. So by near the end of 2014, the events that happened prior shook me into becoming a new man. I stopped my 3rd channel and created yet another 4th channel, the one I still use today, which I had dubbed Animation Area. Soon enough, the people that hated me prior started talking to me again, and I started hating myself less. The quality of my life was steadily increasing. I decided to get an animation program called Adobe Flash earlier that year, and I learned a lot about object animation. So I decided to put my knowledge to the test while learning even more by making this channel dedicated to object animations. Soon enough, I was waist deep into the year of 2015, and I had made myself known in the object show community, with my channel getting hundreds of subscribers in the coming months. In July of 2015, I decided to start committing myself to the creation of an object show called Battle for Object Destination. Writing a good script went fine because of the knowledge about writing that I had received in 5th grade. Finding voice actors went fine because I had connections with quite a few people in the object show community. Animation on the first episode went a bit rough because I had never been patient enough to wait this long for one of my projects to come out. Animation for episode 1 took about 3 months to complete. But alas, I did in fact get the first episode out earlier than I thought I would. And within the span of a few months, it just about doubled my subscriber count. It went from 750 to 1,450. You can actually still check out the episode on this channel today. After episode 1 came out, of course, I started writing a script for episode 2 of the series. Voice acting took a bit longer since I didn't rush the voice actors as much as I did during the production of episode 1. Animation production started around the beginning of 2016. There were a very large amount of problems with the animation production though. My animation was getting better, to the point where I was actually straining my animation software, to the point where it was lagging and stopped working a lot. As a result of that, I put the production of BFOD 2 on a hiatus for a month and a half or so, and focused on other things. After the hiatus was complete, I pushed myself to complete the episode by the deadline. One day before the deadline, I published the episode on my YouTube channel. Little did I know, I was slowly getting less and less motivated to create this series. About a month and a half prior to episode 2's release, I had created an audition to get into the animation crew for a heavily renowned object show known as An Anime Insanity 2. After a couple months and a few interviews from certain members of the crew, I actually became an animator for it. While this was all going on, I felt very weird about myself, remembering thoughts that I had in 3rd grade of wanting to be a girl and feeling that I was not comfortable as male. I realized that I felt that I was a transgender female at that point in time. Most people had supported me in my actions, until I realized that I had never told my dad, and he went ballistic when he heard that I told it to so many people before I heard his advice and opinion on the matter, taking away my privilege to go on Skype for the next few weeks. That, combined with rage, made me eventually realize that I wasn't actually female, and the only reason that I felt comfortable saying that I was because it was just something new and it would get old quickly. Anyways, episode 3's writing went fine, and the script actually came out just the way all the writers, including me, wanted it to. Voice acting went okay for the most part, but I couldn't get myself to finish even half of the animation for it before canceling the series as a result of stress from a lot of people, and also due to my missing the deadline. This made me lose a lot of faith in myself, and I became really sad to the point where I had to stop communicating with a lot of people besides my close friends and job for about a week. About a month earlier, by the way, Rex introduced me to 4 new amazing friends that I still really like today: Nicole, Kristen, Nina, and Samara. They all joined our friend group. However, by this point, I had moved on from my friendship with Liam. Anyways, back to now. After getting some sense slapped into me by a close friend, I decided to start talking to other people again, ignoring what all the haters had to say. Not long after, me and a great friend started creating a new series and co-managing a new channel to post my full-length animations on without any commitment with that same friend. It has stayed that way to this day, and needless to say, I think my life is back on par. And that is my entire life in 18.5 minutes. Hey, if you enjoyed this video, please don't hesitate to slap a like on it or even subscribe if you haven't already if you really liked it. Be sure to also leave your feedback in the comments below. Anyways, I'll see you all in my next video. Thanks again for 2,000 subscribers. This is Alchemist Area signing off. Bye. Also, before I go, I would like to say a couple things. First of all, there is a Becky Bucket DeviantArt. Check it out, I put the link in the description. Also, do you know what I also put in the description? The entire script to BFOD 3. So I hope you all enjoy reading that, and I hope you enjoy the DeviantArt account, at least what we have of it so far. And most of all, I hope you enjoyed this video. This is Alchemist signing off for now. For real this time, I'll see you all later.